latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Today I'm giving you guys a bit of a pitching video, sort of tutorial video really about how to pitch the Outdoor Revolution Cayman Outhouse XL. So what we've got here essentially is a small kind of little driveway awning or utility tent if you will, which you can quite happily do. Now it's available in actually two different sizes in terms of the actual height. So it fixes to a different height point. So you've got a low or a mid. The low itself will go anywhere from 180 to 210, and then the mid's going to be 210 to 255. So there's quite a variance there. With me today, I've actually got the mid, and we're trying to fit it on a low van, just because it's the only one I could actually get my hands on. So to give you an idea. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually throw guide points over the top of the vehicle, and then basically peg it down the other side. That's going to pull the material up towards the van. This is kind of no real rhyme or reason to it, or an art to it. But I was trying to get it, so I've got a bit of a roof rack on here, so I can almost just pull it up on there a little bit, just to kind of take the weight. Throw it over the top, obviously minding the aerial itself, and then we'll go on the other side and kind of peg it out. When we kind of peg it, we want almost to go out at a bit of a kind of a bit of an angle, about a 45-degree angle really. Let's go over some of the aerial. So I'm going to kind of pull it out across this way, really just because it's going to allow that to tension. I'm going to roughly peg it initially to make sure it holds the material up to it, and then afterwards I can kind of tighten that and get a bit more tension to it, to be fair. But for the time being, like I said, this will kind of do the job. What I'll do is I'll just drop that down underneath that a little bit. Slide it underneath there, and then we'll kind of do the same point with this. I can again get the other guy rope and kind of feed it around. Ideally, again, if you're going over the top, depending on where you kind of want to put it. But what we'll do is again, we'll just pop it over there a little bit. Just catch it a little bit there. Can you stay? Nah, of course you're not. In this instance, what we can do is just throw it over the top. And take it over the top of the roof and pull it on over to the other side. Give it a little bit of a pull up, just so obviously it sort of sits in place. And then, like I said, roughly peg it initially, just to kind of keep it up in points. So now we kind of got this positioned. What I will do is kind of might have a little play with this a little bit later on and try and get the positioning right. In fact, let's do it now. So ideally, because it's got a small tunnel section, you want it just inside of that door. The actual tunnel width itself is only about 212 centimeters, so it's not a lot at all really. And in fact, it means that for something like this kind of panel kind of van, you're actually going to find that it's not really going to allow you to open the door. So you've got to allow a bit of an allowance in terms of the tunnel fitting against the side for that. So now we kind of got it in kind of position. What we're going to do is I'm going to basically peg it sort of towards the van. You ideally want to go a little bit underneath the van. For the case at the back here, what I'm going to do is just go a little bit further out from the van, just to allow that sliding door to open as and when I want it to. So that's pegged in. And then we'll kind of peg the front. You almost want to splay it out a little bit, but ideally going straight down. You've got additional kind of tension straps you can use for it as well. So again, we'll kind of go in line a little bit. So now we've kind of got to that point there. What I want to do is kind of peg it out a bit squarer, just so when I can feed the poles in and put them in place, it's all kind of where it wants to be. So we'll just pull the base out a little bit. And I'm just going to basically put a peg in each corner just to kind of get it. You ideally want to go almost dead straight with kind of the base unit. So looking at almost getting a dead parallel line out from there. The actual part itself is 2 by 2 meters, so it's quite a small kind of compact unit. Just make sure that door is zipped up before I properly peg that. Perfect. Tweak that in a little bit. Again, these points can be adjusted later on. It's really just kind of getting it in place initially. Once we're at this stage now, what I'm going to do is then feed the poles directly through. So you've got 2 poles, both the same length. So it doesn't really matter which one goes where. Do you want to get off there, mate? So we can just open this up a little bit. I think it's always best in many ways to personally, I think, feed sort of away from the van. Just that way you control where the pole's going that way. So what we'll do is we'll do an initial feed directly through. This way you can kind of do it section by section as we go. There are kind of pre-angle points to it as well. So what you can make sure is those are almost on the ends. There's even a middle section as well. Ideally you want the pole kind of almost halfway in between. So what we'll do initially is we'll just assemble the pole. It's about the right kind of length on that side. Just dig that into the ground a little bit. Immediately if it's a windy day, you probably got a little less flexibility in what you're doing with it. But all in all, it's quite a nice little kind of addition. Like I said, 2 meters by 2 meters, tunnel connection 250. So you want to have a little bit of play. Immediately, I think when you get to the larger vans, it's going to be a little not really very in keeping, but it's definitely a price orientated option. And as you can probably see from a pitching point of view, there's not a huge amount to it. For me, I'd probably go spend a little bit more money and go for something along the lines of the Kona, especially if you've got a smaller van, because that enables you to kind of open the actual tunnel section. And also the ground sheet is kind of a bit more of a part of it. You know, you can Velcro in and Velcro out, but it still kind of keeps it neat and tidy. So there is a ground sheet supplied with kind of the Handi, but really it's kind of more, you just lay it down flat inside. So I'll just pop that front one in there. I'll just feed that a little bit more on that side, just to get a bit more tension in there. Again, dig that into the ground. Just so I can ease it up and I'm a lot more in control of it in comparison. So I'll just pop that in the end there. Ideally, if you've got someone in the middle hold up, it would make better, but I'm kind of using my best of what I've got, pretty much doing it on my own. So all we do is just feed that in nice and gently, just slowly going in and just easing that up in the corner. Pop it in a ring and pin at the bottom, and then we'll just clip it on to give it a bit more security. You might have to kind of give a bit more kind of section either side. So you might find you have to tweak it a little bit more, just to even that out a bit more. Admittedly, the weight is just on this one singular pole at the moment. Then what we'll do now is do the same. So like I said, we've got this side here, pop that in the ring and pin if it stays in. Ideally, you want to make sure there's a bit more weight into it, so it stays in like so, otherwise it's going to pop out. So we'll just feed that through a little bit more on the one side. For me, I'd probably always try and start with the pole that's on top, because they cross over. That way it's going to kind of help the next pole feed through without snagging at all. So again, we'll just feed that in, work that into the center, and then pop that in the ring and pin on that side. Clip it on. So kind of once we're in this stage, what we can always do is almost tweak the base a little bit, try and get it a bit squarer and get it sitting a little bit more natural, rather than kind of getting it a little bit more honky dunky. So what I'm going to do is kind of bring the front round a little bit, to be fair, and just square that up a touch. As soon as you take it out, it will almost freestand, and it will kind of almost give you a bit more of a natural position of where it wants to be. So let's go even that side there. To be fair, I can do with probably coming across a little bit more. That'll do, I think. Get that nice and square. And again, to get this section nice and square as well. Doors done up so we can get attention now, and then we can start pegging out a bit more properly. You've got additional vents on the side. You can tweak the corners here, so if you want to get the heighting just right, obviously if you've kept it to row, you can adjust it there. Alternatively, bring the straps a little bit further over the top. We'll kind of go peg out forward a bit to make sure it's not leaning too far backwards. Ideally, you want to insert your peg about a 45-degree angle just to make sure it's bringing the tension, and when it gets almost pulled back, it's got a bit more kind of knout to it. And then from there, we'll just kind of peg back against the van, just give it a bit more support. And then we'll do the kind of additional vent section here as well, so you can either go fully up or and then like that. So in fact, we'll go down, zip that zip down, peg those out a little bit. You don't want a huge amount of tension on those. Again, want to kind of splay it off in like a 45-degree angle just to get tension not only directly down but across the actual across it there, so that's nice and taut. And you can always adjust it as you need to. Single peg down there as well for just for the middle section. Always try, and certainly when you've got things like the door, is trying to cross over the pegs, just so it gives attention back towards the zip, making life a bit easier when you put it up and down. And then we'll just do the other side in the same manner. So start kind of with the back one. So you can see how kind of sort of simplistic the idea is. There's not a huge amount to it, which is part of its kind of charm in the way that, you know, you haven't got to faff too much with anything. The hardest part of anything probably is almost throwing the straps over the top, getting that pretty much nailed on as you should. But we'll just do that door as well. If you want to, you can buy additional kind of king poles, and that door can kind of come up and create its own little mini canopy. So that is an option you can kind of look at if you want a little bit more space. But yeah, in essence, that is kind of how you're going to pitch the Outhouse Handi. Simple to do, quite an easy fixture. Sits nice to the van, and bear in mind this is the wrong size for the awning. I think actually that sits quite nicely. You know, I can gather up some more of the elasticated cord on the side to make it fit a bit smarter. But overall, I'm quite happy with how that looks. For more information on this product, check out a little review video on it, or alternatively, check the link below. It'll take you straight through to our website. We've got more information about it, pack sizes, pack weights, dimensions,